supposing someone were to come with you with back pain. You're their trainer. What would you have them do?
Well, the first thing I would do would be to try to figure out why. When you start to look at like the research on low back pain treatment, what you find is that either everything works or nothing works, or both, contradictorily, right? So like if you read individual papers, it'll be like, oh, this helped. But if you read a meta-analysis, it'll go, well, nothing really seems to help. And in my opinion, the problem with this is that low back pain is not just a thing. It is a catch-all term for a lot of different things. And there can be a lot of different sources of low back pain. And in sort of a fundamental sense, you wouldn't expect there to be a single treatment for a multifactorial condition, because that would be silly. The early days of rehab, Vladimir Yanda and some of these guys back in the 70s and 80s, basically this is tight, this is weak, this is strong, this is loose, kind of old models of that. If you had, hyperlordosis, where you've got like a big low back arch, well, that could be how you're built, right? Maybe you've always been built like that. Or it can be due to tight hip flexors, which roll the pelvis forward. That can mean weak hamstrings, because the hamstring should help tuck under. It could be hypertonic spinal erectors that can cause that to occur. Or, that happens and that causes those things to occur adaptively, right? If you're chronically shortening your spinal erectors because your pelvis is tilted back, which could be due to high heels in women, tends to alter pelvic mechanics. But if someone comes to me and they're just like, yes, I have generalized low back pain, no acute injury, nothing traumatic like that, I'm probably going to at least approach it very simply and go, all right, especially like if they sit a lot, they probably have tight hip flexors. Most of us do. If I look at them in posturally, their low back looks a little bit arched, well, they probably have a tight low back. They probably have weak abdominals or weak lower abdominals, which are involved in tilting the pelvis. The old stretch what's tight, strengthen what's loose. Now, if there's any physios listening to this, they've already decided that I'm a moron, because that old model has very much fallen out of favor as too strong, but we know now that it is overly simplified. And I'm not claiming that it's not. However, when people have come to me with low back pain of otherwise unidentified nature, 9 times out of 10, stretch what's tight, strengthen what's weak, it works more often than not. I'm not saying it works universally, right? I approach rotator cuff problems the same way. The people who come to me as a trainer or a coach tend not to come to me because they blew out a spinal disc or were in a car accident. There's a selection process. If someone comes to me and they're just like, yeah, I've just got general shoulder problem, I'm probably going to check. Statistically speaking, they're going to have tight pecs, pec minor, pec major. They're going to have tight scalenes. They're going to have a weak mid-back. They're going to be having that shoulders rolled forward. And I'm going to throw the basic shit at them, plus a little bit of rotator cuff strengthening, a little bit of neuromuscular retraining. And it works more often than it doesn't. Somebody's just like, my low back is sore, and they go, yeah, I work at a job where I only rotate one direction. I'm going to pretty much think, okay, I can almost predict without even testing anything. You've got an over-tight quadratus lumborum that's causing you to twist. Your SI may be a little bit, there's stuff going on that I can probably address through simple muscular rebalancing. God almighty, the number of knee problems I've fixed with nothing but terminal leg extensions. My clients used to think I was a magician. Women especially, because of wider hips and Q angle, and they tend to have patellar tracking. Maybe my knees have hurt for months or years. 10, 15 degrees, I would sort of palpate, rub on the VMO, teach that recruiting and do a little bit of stretching and stuff. And 2 weeks later, they're like, my knees stopped hurting. And they're just like, you are a magician. And I'm like, as often as not, it's that. I had a trainee years ago. Through every rotator cuff thing I knew at it wouldn't work. And then I came across some book talking about scalenes. When they're tight, they tend to do that and pull the shoulder up and forwards. And I did a consult the other week, and they were telling me the exact same thing. I've got shoulder pain on this and this, and they showed me a video of them doing chin-ups, and their shoulders were kind of coming down unevenly. And I said, okay, I want you to do something. And I basically had them facing the camera. I had them assess their scalene tightness, and they're like, holy shit, that one side is insanely tight. And I'm like, well, there you go. We just DDX'd your problem. And I'm like, do these stretches every time before you do chins and focus on scapular depression. So that works as often as not. Again, I'm not a rehab guy. I know enough to be dangerous. I learned to do it by having someone I need to fix. I fixed more SI problems than I can describe, because something about being around me gives people SI problems. It's very strange. We've got active insufficiency in past, and it's not as simple as stretch and strengthen. I know, but it works more often than not. Now, what my experience was addressing things that way was, if it were purely mechanical, by which I mean muscular imbalances or whatever, it usually starts to improve in about 2 weeks because you're starting to, fix those structures. If it had gotten no better in 2 weeks, it's not that. And I tell you the same thing in my forum. They're like, I have a shoulder problem. And I'm like, well, try this. And in 2 weeks, if it's not better, you need to go get it assessed. It might be a slap tear. It could be something torn. Try this first. Let's say someone comes and it's not that, or they have a herniated disc, right? And what that means, right? So we have the vertebrae, and we've got the jelly donut that's in the middle, the squishy bit. Generally, you get posterior herniations, which means that the jelly donut pushes out the back of the connective tissue, and then it starts pinching. That can happen, if you round out under load. Compression flexion tends to cause that. It just happens. 80% of those or something like that will just go away of their own accord. Like, most of them will heal up as long as you quit bugging them. Like, if you're in the gym and you do something and hurt your back doing something stupid, like, sets of 10 on a deadlift with weights you shouldn't be using as a, random example apropos of nothing.
For you, man.
If you just ignore it, just don't keep aggravating it, many of them resolve on their own. And there's movements you can do, like McKenzie press-ups and things that, originally they thought it would reseat the disc, and now it's doing something. So that can be part of it. There can be neural issues. I had a deadlift injury in my youth, and I strained a spinal ligament. Luckily, I didn't tear anything. It wasn't a career ender. It lost me 9 months of training. Low back pain can be so many things, ranging from purely mechanical muscular stuff to discal to vertebral. In many cases of low back pain, doing light aerobic activity makes it feel better, probably by moving blood through that, but it doesn't work for everything. Again, for me as a trainer, I don't deal with severe injuries. It's not my wheelhouse. I don't know how to deal with it. A real physio, and I'm not. I got 5 great physios in my Facebook group, and I will always defer to them. We'll do a proper diagnostics to figure out exactly what's going on. Me, I'm lazy. I don't have the time. I simply throw everything at the wall till something sticks. That is my approach to rehab. I'm going to throw everything I know at it, and hopefully something will work. If it's not something that resolves pretty quickly, go get it assessed. MRIs, people love doing MRIs. They don't tell you much. You can have a negative MRI and be asymptomatic. You can have a herniated disc and be asymptomatic. There is no singular low back pain other than we know that in 2025, you can't do shit for it. Seriously, we can put a pacemaker in the brain. And if you have a severe low back injury, you're out of luck. And the treatments are often as worse as the condition, right? You can do a discectomy, and now you get arthritis from the vertebrae grinding. You can put in a cage. Now the vertebrae around it have to take up the slack for more movement. Low back pain, it's awful, and it is debilitating. But there is no single treatment because there is no single cause of low back pain. And then we get into the pain science bit of it. This was something I watched starting to develop in the 2000s. And let me make it clear, as with most of these things, I don't disagree with what they're saying completely. I disagree with the extent to which they're saying, which will make more sense when I actually explain what they're saying. So there's something called the psychosocial theory of pain. Because pain, as they said in Roadhouse, I ain't got time for pain. And pain ain't nothing. The body sends some sort of pain signal to the brain, right? Substance P, there's an aggravation of the afferent motor nerves into the brain. The problem is pain cannot be objectively measured. Pain can only be subjectively measured through the 10-point pain scale, which is this little smiley face thing that goes from smiley face to sad face. This is not science. Yeah, you can measure levels of substance P. You can measure levels of interleukin 6. You can measure levels of inflammatory cytokines. Pain, you cannot measure because it relies on self-report. And that's where we get into the biosocial aspect of it. Let's say you and I both have identical injury, identical cytokines, identical everything. The amount of pain that we will report may be completely different based on what our pain tolerance is, what our upbringing was, what our social environment was, what sociocultural aspects of pain, how we learn to express ourselves.
I can think of one study where the same electric shock is administered to people, and the average pain response is like a 7 out of 10 or something, and yet there will be some people who only report it as a 1 out of 10 and others who report it as a 10 out of 10 most excruciating pain I've ever felt.
There is a cultural component. So for example, looking at the Kenyan marathon runners, part of Kenyan culture is that Kenyan males, when they are circumcised, do it without anesthetic. And culturally, they are expected to show no pain. So they are taught very early on, you do not express pain outwardly. Doesn't matter how much pain they're feeling. They will never let you know. We're talking about a self-reported thing, right? I did tons of endurance training. I did more high-intensity training, endless work, painful training. I have incredible pain tolerance. When I was in my 20s, my appendix burst, like septic near death type of thing.
Oh, jeez, I didn't know that. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I was in the hospital and they were like, does that hurt? I'm like, I've had ab workouts that were worse. I was near death, or so they told me. Like, I never sensed it. A few years ago, I broke my left leg. Well, someone else did it. I was skating with some friends at the roller rink, and somebody lost control and hit me. And so my left leg, my shin, I broke the tibia and fibula and tore 3 ligaments. My foot was literally hanging off my leg. Like, just...
That's horrible.
I shed 1 tear. They put me in the car. I had 1. That was it. I simply breathed into the pain. The people who were driving me were far more panicked than I was. I have a massive pain tolerance. I also have a stupid male, you don't show pain, you don't show weakness, whatever bullshit I learned growing up. Pain is a real problem in that regards. But what these people will say is, oh, pain is all in the brain. Psych 10 matrix level bullshit. Okay, I take that back. What they're saying is everything is a perceived neurological signal in the brain, right? That is the matrix. Whether or not we're plugged in and being sent signals or in the real world, our brain can't tell the difference. All the pain signals, substance P and all that coming up to the brain, it is perceived in the brain. Well, fantastic. And now, in my opinion, this is a response and an overreaction. Go back 30 years. All pain was peripheral. Got an ankle injury? Ice it. Take an NSAID. Rice. Elevation. Rest. Compression. That's how you deal with pain. And then they decided, nope, let's go to the other extreme. Fuck the periphery, it's all in the brain. And that's where it went. I mean, it's fundamentally not wrong, but I think it misses the point. It doesn't have to be either or, right? The periphery is sending signals to the brain, which is perceiving them and is sending signals back. What a lot of the pain science people do is they go, well, rather than worrying about the peripheral injury, what we need to do is teach the brain to perceive the pain differently. Because what does happen in low back pain? People start to get scared to move. They're like, oh no, my low back's hurt. I gotta, I'm afraid to move because it might hurt. And then by not moving, they make it so that it will hurt if they move. And a lot of it is teaching them to be able to move safely and addressing it from that standpoint. And I don't disagree with that. This has always been an oddity of injuries that I've seen. When you get hurt, your body adapts in ways that make it worse. Like when you injure your knees and push your patella out of position, that actually inhibits the VMO, which makes the mistracking worse. If you got chronic low back pain and you become so scared that you always move like a robot and are afraid to move, you are probably going to make it worse in the long run. And the pain science people are like, well, you need to learn carefully, to be able to move without feeling pain to break those connections. You're like, you're never going to get rid of whatever's causing it, but you can teach the system. And I don't disagree with that. Do not mishear me. I'm saying that I think it's incomplete because by the same token, If I give someone an NSAID or an anti-inflammatory or turmeric or something that tamps down the substance P, the pain signal won't reach my brain, and that works too, right? And the example I like to use, because I think people can understand it, we have the internet, which is brought through us by the magic internet gnomes. Did you know that? Did you know that actually there are gnomes in the internet that shovel the zeros and ones?
I thought they were in my computer.
No, they're in the wires. And the reason the internet gets slow is because the ones and zeros get stuck in the tube. That's actually how the internet works. It's the internet gnomes. They are shuttling the zeros and ones to your computer.
That explains a lot.
Doesn't it though? Well, I should also remind me to tell you my belief that electronics get tired, but let's come back to it. So we've got our computer or our TV or whatever it is. Let's say I'm watching YouTube. YouTube servers sends data via the internet gnomes to my Wi-Fi, to my computer. In the strictest sense, YouTube is in my computer, right? My computer perceives YouTube, right? That's what the pain people are saying. Well, all that matters is the perception of the incoming data. Okay, fine. Well, if YouTube servers get unplugged, I lose my signal. A peripheral change affected the end result. If my Wi-Fi goes down, or if I don't pay my Spectrum bill, the YouTube may be sending the signal, but the gnomes can't get me the data. The periphery, to me, is just as important as the end stage. I see the same thing in pain. If someone's ankle is jacked up, to put it in technical terms, just going, oh, well, it's all in the brain, so let's just focus there, to me, misses the point. They're both involved. You familiar with the central governor theory, Tim Noakes, before he lost his mind?
No, I'm not.
Okay, this is an exercise thing. So for years, we thought that exercise was limited by peripheral factors. ATP, acidosis, glycogen, etc. Right? That's what causes task failure. Tim Noakes came along and said, nope, it's in the brain. Right? When the brain perceives effort above a certain level, it shuts the system down to avoid catastrophic failure. And he had data supporting that. For 2-3 decades, it was all about the periphery. And then he came along and said, no, it's all about the brain. And I said, why can't it be both? Right? The brain is getting signals from the body that's telling it what you're doing. Right? If core temperature goes above a certain point, your brain will shut things down. Well, if the training that I do decreases my peripheral heat production, doesn't that still improve performance? I mean, yes, it's still ultimately perceived in the brain, but we are having an effect peripherally. So anyway, that's my, like I said, I love pissing off the pain side. Like, pain's all in the brain. Yeah, that's great. And it's Matrix 101 philosophy. What if dreams were reality, man, and reality was really just dreams? Like, well, you've just changed the semantics and nothing changes about the world. Let's face it, Cypher was right.
The steak is too delicious, whether or not it actually exists in the real world.
Sure. Whether or not it's a real steak or we're just a body in a tube that's being given delicious steak inputs doesn't change our sensation. And that's what the pain is in the brain, people are saying. That, well, all that matters is the perception. Some people do have chronic low back pain that's never going to go away, in which case you may not be able to address it peripherally. Like, actually, in that regards, it's just a random note. Fibromyalgia used to be thought to be an issue of peripheral signals. And they use corticosteroids like high-dose cortisone, which causes all kinds of problems. And it's now realized that people with fibromyalgia, the neurons in their brain that sense pain, they're overtuned. So the same signal, like the study you mentioned, the same pain signal, they are perceiving as much higher. So now they're using drugs to try to tamp that down.
My dad suffered with back pain for decades. And I got him into bodyweight squats, and then he progressed to goblet squats, and then barbell back squats. I made sure his technique was good throughout, and now he no longer has back pain.
Hooray! Amazing.
Yeah, right?
I mean, and I do, as much as I'm like, I tend to shit on deadlifts for like hypertrophy and stuff. There are a lot of people who are like, yes, learning to deadlift properly made my low back pain go away for whatever reason. I mean, I'm not talking about like, maxing out all the time. Frequently people that have wonky knees find that doing deeper squats makes it better, not worse.
I joke that lifting both causes and fixes all of my injuries.
It's not wrong. I mean, at a fundamental level in many ways. In that case, what you're talking about is getting back to, training movements, not muscles. This is one of, Vladimir Yonda's things. I'm sure most of his ideas are poo-pooed now, but, he wasn't drilling a dry well, right? He was working with the science of the day. And there was all this stuff, you have people land their stomach and lift up one leg, and there's supposed to be a specific order that muscles fire in, right? There's sort of a stereotypical, and I don't remember when it was like right glute, contralateral spinal erector, left, whatever it was. And what he would see was that there would be dysfunctional firing patterns in low back pain, where the body was just doing weird stuff. And I know there was, big push in the 2000s about the transversus abdominis. Everybody was about the TVA. And the problem was research had shown that in low back pain, there could be TVA dysfunction, where basically the transversus abdominis, it's kind of one of these, it's the internal ab muscle.
Yeah, if it's strong, you can do the cool stomach vacuum thing that bodybuilders do.
Exactly. But it was also, it's supposed to fire like a couple hundred milliseconds before certain activities to stabilize the low back. And when there's been an injury, actually maybe that's the multifidus, same thing as another one of those spinal erectors, is after a low back injury, that muscle may not be firing properly and has to be retrained and re-educated. Unfortunately, that leaked into the fitness industry and became, everyone has a weak multifidus and must train it. No. This is a low back injury consequence. It's not even a cause. It's like when gluteal amnesia went from being something that could happen to everyone has gluteal amnesia. And hell, that was before Brett. And it's like in the fitness industry, it went from this is something that can be seen to everyone has it. And then the fitness industry is like, nope, doesn't even exist. Well, I'm pretty sure we can find somewhere between all those extremes. It's because I've seen it. So anyway, so you've got all that. But in the case of non-specific low back pain, of unknown etiology, as the physicians like to put it when they don't know what the answer is, it's a scientific way of saying shrug. That also does work. And I think it is. I think it's because it's probably getting muscles to fire in sequence in a way they probably weren't for your dad, in terms of, so Hatfield used to say you can't fire a cannon from a canoe, meaning that without that stable base from training in the lower body, in the core, right? That's what links everything together. So doing the goblet squats was teaching your dad's body to fire glutes, spinal erectors, abs, etc., in a way that probably rebalanced things. Yeah,
I'd say that's probably what's going on. And his back pain has gone away for years now because he's been squatting for years. So he's done very well.
When I injured mine years ago, rounded out on deadlifts, trained a spinal ligament, lost 9 months of training, learned a very valuable lesson about ego. But what I found for years is that if I slacked off on my ab and low back work for even a couple weeks, it would come back. That if I didn't keep that area strong to support it.
Can I just say, going back to your funny remark about how when physicians talk about things of unknown etiology, all they're just saying is that we don't know where the hell it comes from. I find it really funny how a lot of terms in medicine and anatomy that sound really kind of, oh, wow, that's kind of, oh, that's a big Latin word. When you break down the meanings of them, they're just like, okay, let's start with gastrocnemius. Gastroc, the stomach, nemius, the leg, the knee, it's the stomach looking thing on the leg, or the vastus lateralis, the vast thing on the lateral side of the leg, the lateral, just the big one on the side.
Well, do you know why they call it the gracilis?
Tell me. I'm curious.
Is the graceful muscle. I think that's, pretty much.
I think that's similar to like the sartorius. Oh, it's the sash. Yeah, it just goes,
Yeah, the trapezius is because it looks like a trapezoid. It's like there's no...
right.
Well, and if you go back to the old school, right, because okay, we've got biceps brachii, but you've also got biceps femoris, and they used to call, that is the biceps of the thigh. The hamstring is the biceps of the thigh.
Yeah.
Because what it does, and it is, it's like, okay, biceps, two heads, literally two heads, triceps. Yeah, there's not. It's, yeah. But yeah.
That's basically the whole low back pain / pain
really
thing covered.
Yeah, you just, You know, if you get it, it sucks. It is one of the most debilitating injuries because you cannot do, right? At least if you got an upper body injury, at least you can move around. Like when my leg was injured, at least I could use it. When you got low back pain, man, you're like, you roll out of bed like, or you're like, okay, I got to step up, rotate. Like, you know, you're in bed, you're like, all right, gotta roll over to the side.
Oh, dude, my dad's movements were positively geriatric before I had him squatting. And he was a cyclist, you know, like he was pretty cardiovascularly fit, had a couple broken bones like you. So I say maybe it's time to start doing a different athletic activity. Got him into squats. He's never felt better.
Yeah, I mean, it honestly, as much as I really don't enjoy training anymore, I mean, look, I did this for shit. I was a competitive athlete from the time I was 15 to 42, and I just got tired. And when I retired, like, I do it. I basically mainly train just to stay in one piece. It's just to keep everything functioning so I can pick things up and do what I need to do. Because otherwise, it all falls apart that much worse with age. That's for damn sure. But don't get old. It's a trap.